have like one of the concepts we have is this task for the summit. It's a little bit out of date. I have to update this, but we basically keep putting this. And what works well, like for example, with Casio was like, I think just that like little story of what happened with Casio is a great case study of like how the summit allows other people to participate. How if you're proactive, you suddenly find yourself in a place of quite some good responsibility. So I think for some whatever reason, Cassie said, oh, I think I could help, or I would be interested in help. So what I was doing, right, for the last 2 weeks was anybody that could have a hint that was interested and wanted to help, basically send them this link. So I basically, what happened? Can I?
Yeah.
Wow.
Actually, I don't know, they need to configure the NVIDIA driver.
Oh, okay. All right. So I basically sending, these guys the link for the to-do list with no owner. So the whole idea is that that's where we place the things that needs to be done that has no owner. And one of them was make a PowerPoint brochure. And then first of all was make a template, then was make a PowerPoint. And then so Cassie came and said, okay, I'll do that. So he did it, then he made a couple of versions, we commented, and we actually have a great PowerPoint, the one I'm presenting. And it's sort of kind of, a lot of it is revolved around that. So everything that we're doing, if you guys want to help, that's the place to help. And it's also interesting because then it becomes really easy to see who's doing and who's not doing. And then, as always with Owasp, you have quite a big number of guys initially who says they want to help. And that might even help a little bit in the beginning, but then the people who actually do something, that you can consider to be meaningful, something that it wouldn't take you 5 minutes to do. Right? Like the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint is great. That thing saved me 3 hours. I love it. Because if he hadn't done it, one of us would have to do it. So, one of the things that, for me, it's important with events like the summit is I also, view it as a great way to, to create teams, to create dynamics, to really get, you guys seen all this, so we don't need this, to, get working together. Now, where's the, okay, cool. Where's the actual, do you only have two? Oh, okay. Cool. So, because you guys story, right? The main thing of the summer was actually came by the fact that we had 30 projects with basically 70 reviewers, and it became quite apparent that we actually had something which is a little bit unique to Owasp. We actually have people working together, and I know that sounds a bit crazy, but if you look at a lot of open source projects, there's not a lot of collaboration going on. There is some, but a lot of open source projects, or even Owasp project, one guy, he does a lot of stuff. Then some guys give some comments, and that's it. Like even big projects like WebScarab or WebCode, you talk to the guys who wrote it, and they're like, dude, nobody talks to me. And they're like, the amount of feedback that they get, even for the amount of users that they have, is just absolutely, not very good. So one of the things that I realized that Owasp could also do is we could also be a facilitator to get real power users to projects. So we can also say, hey, then we can artificially create them because with the reviewers, that's what we did. The reviewers is almost like we artificially injecting 2 resources into a project, and that actually you're going to have to read the project, read the documentation, test the thing, document it, and actually what happens on projects is that they become active contributors, which is what I was expecting to happen. Didn't happen everywhere, but you already have a couple of cases where suddenly like the lines between the reviewer and the contributor become a bit blurry, which actually becomes a bit of a problem because a reviewer shouldn't really be contributing, right? But then that's like something we need to work around that. So that's all. One of the things that we really need to figure out how to do is to really raise the quality of everything that Owasp does. And by the way, feel free to ask questions. It's supposed to be like interactive, right, session. So one of the ideas that I quite liked from yesterday was, the whole idea of focusing the summit on in 2009 on the 3 core ideas, which is defend, focus, and proactivity. And I still want to play a bit more with those themes, or maybe we should find others, but I quite like the idea that gives us something that we can really be focused. It's the irony, right? That actually allows us to focus because we can really target it. So, like if you look at this, the reality is that we could do this next week. So, if we look at it from a pure point of view of operational, we could do the summit next week, as long as the people turn up, right? The summit would, even if we only had 80 people, right, turn up, and we happen to pay for 70 of those, or 100 people, and we pay for 80, I think it will be still a remarkable success. But the reality is that we have an opportunity to make a really big event. We really have, it's not about failing, because it will be a success. The question is, how much of a success is it going to be? So it's almost like it's up to the team, it's up to the people who are creating the summit, and all of you are absolutely invited to help to become an active organizer, right? And by the way, if you guys didn't notice on the Summer of Code, all our rules for sponsorship are designed to reward contributors. So it's almost like if Matteo makes a proposal, I almost don't read it, because Matteo has delivered, right? Juan makes a proposal for internalization, or Leonardo, I'm not going to read it. I will, but not read it to the point of view, can I trust? My only question would be when I or we discuss the budget, is how much money can we, in proportion, or how much support? Because I would like to also start introducing resources, for example, this. Okay, this is very important. So if we have this available, and let's say we got 3 guys available, well, they should be working for the projects. Because if a project has, and they should be able to say, well, I need that block done, I don't want to do it, all right? Or I need that block as part of my project, I want another resource. So it's also a great way for Owasp to to increase the value that it provides us. And in case you guys haven't noticed, we are all trying to figure this out, right? Sometimes Owasp looks much bigger than it is. It's not. It's me, Sebastian, Tom, Dave and Jeff, and a bunch of project leaders, right? A bunch of chapter leaders, and that's it, right? That's Owasp in a nutshell, right? In fact, like I said, the New York board has more structure, right, than the Owasp itself, and more procedures and more things than the Owasp itself. So, that's one of the things that we really need to figure out in Portugal. So the big opportunities are, what can we actually do with the summit? So my vision for it was that we can have the working sessions, which is our ways to get things done. We have the way to get Owasp projects out at the forefront, which is great, because for the first time, we actually have Owasp training courses. Somebody wants to learn about WebSCAR, WebGoat, even some, ISAPI or ASP security, or the source code review, and even the top 10 that Sebastian's going to teach. We finally have that. So in some ways, what we need to figure out now, and what we're going to try to do for the next month, is how can we really make the summit a great success? And think about it, right? If we can make this success, we can have 2 of these a year, right? So we can be going around the world for a week to a nice 5-star hotel and work, but have a great time. What I don't like still about our conferences is that we don't pay enough attention to the Owasp community. So you land here, right? You don't know who is who. Nobody gets you from the airport. You arrive here, and they might be in this hotel. So it's almost like if you plot the hotel and you put a dot where the Owasp guys, you're going to have 20 Owasp guys having a beer in their room, right? Instead of being together or talking, or even from a project manager point of view, it's so inefficient, because ideas come when 2 guys get together and they agree to work on something and it works. So it's almost like it's not efficient for Owasp to have these conferences where we don't really swap ideas. The only time we get to talk was that 1 hour yesterday, which was rushed, where we should be having time after time after time to debate the ideas, to brainstorm, to come up what we need to do. Because the reality is that we have the money, right? That is the bottom line. We don't have a huge amount of money, but we have money. So the question is that, what do we do with it? What is the most cost-effective way to add value to our members? So the summit for me is the place to do it. And okay, the venue is good. And basically, one of the key messages that I think we need to pass, especially because we are at the business track now, is that our conferences are a great way to see the latest research, are a great way to meet great speakers, to hire great talent, to find good jobs. And in some ways, we created a monster, right? Because we actually created now the best web application security conference in the world. So, we can't really, now slap on, like 40 presentations on top of it on OWASP topics. It just wouldn't work. And also, like, it wouldn't be fair, right? It's not fair to have an OWASP project over there competing, with, a top class, presenter downstairs. I'm not saying that, people shouldn't go there, but it just becomes a bit of a mess. And also, like, I like the fact that I have a place for our talent to shine. Like, for me, my most rewarding things of the SOC and the SPOC and everything is the fact that I could say that I already found a bunch of talent for OWASP that would have never occurred if we didn't have those programs. And they usually are, the kind of proposals that are not that weak or like a typical example, right? Some guy sends me an email when I send that, hey guys, where are the freaking courses? Send me an email, says, what about SU Linux? Okay, can we do that? And it's one of those that, it's almost like you would go, what the fuck, right? But then I said, okay, give it the way, I know it's very important. So the guy comes probably with the most complete description of the course, full curriculum, got the PDF, got the VM. It's like it's our best trainer so far. And it's one of those things that it just appears if you just let the guys go, like the guy who did the mod security, the translation project, all projects that we like, have a go, And then the summit represents a great opportunity to pick out the guys who really deliver and give them challenges, right? So we know we should be putting, Leonardo, Juan, Sebastian, it's like 5 guys together and saying, here's a project for you, right? Can you do that? Can you organize yourselves? And what do you need? And the summit is the place to do that. So the question is, how do we sell that in some ways internally, but also how we sell that externally? Because remember that if we have these big problems, or if we have super teams that can go after these problems, we need, the problems to solve. And in some ways, the problems to solve should come from the business community, which I don't think there is enough representation at OWASP. Because remember that we're sitting in a very interesting place because we have financial resources, we have human resources, we have talent, we have time, right? If you think from a global point of view, right? But we don't really have a vision, right? We don't really have focus. We don't have like 10 companies from a sector saying, I want this. The 5 things or the 2 things that I really want, right, that nobody's giving to me is this and this. And like, I think it was Leonardo, we're talking about the web GOAT deployment, right, across, or it was you, somebody, like, talking about the whole idea of web GOAT deployment across an organization. Well, that's a very good idea, or Juan, sorry, right? And it's like, we should do that, and that's what a client would go.
Project selection, can you use a system of bounties? I mean, I've seen other open source projects that let the members decide what the direction could be, what is the interest. So let the member contribute like a bounty, let's say $100.
Yeah. Whoa.
I'm involved in an open source project, and I would love to sponsor this way.
Well, we see the things that we already done that, or put it this way, we've tried to do that, but not very successfully. Well, the way, for example, a good example of we did exactly that was last year we came up with an idea, which makes a lot of sense, to say our members, you can allocate your sponsorship money to projects, and we can give you recognition, and you can work directly with the projects. And that worked a little bit, and in some ways some vendors did that. It was pretty cool. Actually, you had like a web code scanning company sponsoring a benchmarking tool that in some ways could make them look pretty bad. It was quite interesting, the dynamics of it. But I think what we don't have, and I would like to achieve partially that in Portugal, is we don't have that channel where the business community can say that. See? So what you want is to be able to grab 10 companies or 5 companies or 5 types of users. Because think about it, right? Even if it's a vendor of a scanner, right? They still do software. So there is a layer of that company who doesn't care about whatever they're selling, but cares about doing secure software. So we to do is to have a channel for those guys to OWASP exactly that. And they have a bounty because we can use their membership money. But also I think they have something even more important, because what they do have is they can look into our developers in the eyes and says, you do something, I'll use it. And that is really valuable, right? It's really valuable that it's like, suddenly you have this guy here, like my example, I developed what I think is one of the best report generation tools today. I did it for a client and I released it. That's before I did with the Ounce. But I released it open source, that client still uses it and nobody else uses it. So I would love to have 5 companies who says, I want to use that, my teams are ready for it, we'll put in the resources, what we need you to do is this. If you do that, we'll use it. And now actually what it means is that those projects will be way much more focused because they know that if they deliver this, then they get that usage. Owasp, we have that. That's what's crazy is that we actually are in the middle of that kind of massive distribution. So like, think about like the Owasp top 10. We have this idea of having maybe an advisory board, and part of the deal of that is company who says we will publicly support it. We will publicly say that's what we do. So suddenly, like you have, let's say, the new Owasp top 10, when it comes out, is immediately sponsored and immediately has the clout XYZ types of companies and governments. But so here's the deal. How do we do that? Well, we need to attract those guys to Portugal. So in some ways, like the challenge that we have from a message point of view is how do we convince those members? And by the way, we're giving a VIP pass, which is like the accommodation and the thing except and training except the flight to our members. So we're already going to have some of our non-vendor and maybe vendor members going there. The challenge now is how do we create a model and a structure that actually will get them to feel like it's worth doing something about it, then documenting their ideas and then telling us what they want us to do. And the problem with that is that's hard work. It's very hard work to come up with a decent request. It's very easy to say, this sucks. But it's very hard work to say, well, I need this in this way, then in that format, and if you can give me this, I will use it that and that way.
Because they do that, would it be smart to take everybody's ideas from the summit and then make that part of winter of code and say who wants to participate in this project because this is what this customer wants, right? Because if you're gonna, in order to get all the information that you need, you're gonna have to partner with companies like Wallace, White Hat, Web Inspect, AppScan, all of that, and see what just to capture the information they've been finding in their tests. But the only bad part about that is, kind of leaves out the whole manual piece, right? So what's found from source code analysis, what's found from...
Well, that's the top 10. Like, I like the plan from Robert at the moment. Hopefully he will be able to do it. And his plan is to say, well, what we're going to do in the summit is to come up with basically come up with a model so that we can deliver every year, right? The 31st of January, every year there will be a top 10. So let's walk back from it. So if every year there needs to be a top 10, that means that on the second week of January, there needs to be a working session somewhere in the world for 3 days or 2 days where the whole thing is going to be decided, right, and written and ready for publishing. So that means that by December, you need to have all the data points and you need to have all the ideas, which means that by October, you need to start thinking about what's going to happen. So at the moment, we don't have that plan, which is why it doesn't get delivered. Because it's like, yeah, we should do a top 10. Yeah, cool. Anybody? It's like it doesn't really work like that. So that's one of the typical projects that the summit will help to make it operational because you actually have a room with people that can come up with that. And then you touch on, for me, a very important point, which is, for me, the way we've done the seasons of code, we're literally like this. I'll get a budget from the board, I wrote some rules, sort of stay the same, and then we basically said, who wants to do what? And stick it on a wiki. Like, okay, the last one we already gave a page of ideas, but it was still basically, who wants to do what? You guys have a month, send your ideas, and we approve it. In fact, for the last two, we actually approved all of them, which is quite interesting, because I think there's already a self-control mechanism. But I don't want to do that for the next season of code. For the next season of code, what I want to do is to get all of those approved in Portugal. So what I want to do is to say, you guys are here, you are here, the project leaders are here, the teams are here, the problems are here, right? The clients who have the problems are here. You guys sort yourselves out. Here's a bunch of ideas that we think should be done, right? I want a proposal by the end of Wednesday or Thursday, and we're going to decide on Friday. And that for me should be the model. And I think it could actually work, especially if you do this every 6 months. So you know that the summit is the place where you go, you bring your proposals, you bring your ideas, you help the thing, you find the team is committed, and you get it approved. It's great, it's faster, there's no faffing around, and it's a place to be. So for me, the path of getting things done, it's like you have an idea, you want to do it, come to the summit, organize it, prepare it, document it, and we'll approve it. And to be honest, my instinct is always anything that's decent and is well thought out and comes from somebody who does a track record. For me, I approve them all. It may be a budget issue in terms of can we give you $2,000, $5,000, $10,000? But for me, I'm always the guy who's like, God, approve that one. Come on, let's do them all, right? But that's because that's the dynamics. But what we should be doing is approving the ones that match a particular, set of criteria that we, in some ways, that we can define. So one of the messages, going completely back to the beginning, the message is how can we make a compelling case for people to come to the summit because they're going to meet all of these guys. And that's something that I actually got some interesting feedback. For the people that are outside of Owasp, it's almost like they really like the idea that they can meet all of these guys. So it's like, how do we actually make a message? How do we plan it? And and how do we expand all this? There you go. That's the courses. There's actually a flash security one. And again, right? You have more now, but it's like it's a bit like a scattergun approach. So we say that here's the course that we can offer, and then we can have a lot of more courses because we only run the courses that get people. So it's almost like we should be finding the courses that people really like, and then if nobody applies, we drop it. But I like the fact that there is almost like a very low barrier of entry. If you have an idea for a course, if you have a project, you should be able to do a course, and we should have a venue or almost like a platform for those things, to occur. So the working sessions, again, we're completely improvising all of this, right? Now there you go. We're trying to, in some ways, see, the way I view this is like, I think that Owasp has a lot of leverage capability that at the moment we're not using, and it's not like if we don't do it, a big thing is going to happen. A problem is just that it's a missed opportunity, and the reality is that time is ticking by. So if we don't do it, there doesn't seem anybody out there who's actually doing variation. So it's up to us. And there is a lot of projects. Like I think the browser is a great example because it sort of has all the elements. There's a lot of products or actions that are happening that commercial interests a lot of the time go of the common good of having, for example, a secure browser that can sustain the things that should be done. And at the moment, the reality is that it's very easy for any of those big players to ignore Arsham or Arsnek or Jeff or any other guy because it's a unit of one. And it doesn't matter how big the guy is. It doesn't matter, right, how important he is. That might matter how much lip service they pay to you. That might matter how much they say they really care, how much they listen to you, how many meetings they have to you, but actually how much work is actually done for you, it's very little. Because it's easy for them because it's very simple, right? So you are Sun, right, on the HTTP only thing, right? So you look here and you have Fortune 500, you have customers all over the world, and they saying feature, speed, reliability, feature. Why haven't you done the first one? You're late. Oh, by the way, secure, feature, blah, blah, blah. I want to buy you all the stuff you're doing, yada, yada. Then you can go to this side, and there's a bunch of guys going, that's not good, you should do this. And then they look at it going, well, everything you want me to do costs money, takes time. In fact, you're going to piss off those guys because there's two features in there that are dependent on the fact that it's insecure, right? So okay, I'll do one you want. Which one do you want me to do? Okay, that little one. And then that'll keep you happy? Oh, okay, have more. Let's keep talking. When the reality is that we should be in the middle of it. But we are only going to be in the middle of it when we can turn around and say, hey, we have our own batch of big boys here. Right? And our own batch of big boys want this thing to happen. So I think that it's very easy for somebody to ignore an individual. My bet is going to be very hard to ignore Owasp. And it's going to be very hard to somebody ignore Owasp thinks that this should happen. And here are the pragmatic analysis of why something should happen. And here is the proof of concept of how that could happen. So here is, 1st of March 2009, here is what we think should happen, or 1st of October, or 1st of 6th of November, whatever. So, but at the moment, that doesn't happen. So it's very easy for people to ignore us because there is no past. And yeah, there's some talk, whatever, this is fuzzing around, and then nothing really gets done. So there's another year, and the problems are still the same. Like the simple fact that the top 10 hasn't changed, it's a massive failure. Because we should be, taking things off the top 10. So be okay, that went from being systemic across the board to a minor thing that people might do, but all the frameworks can actually support it, and it doesn't really have it by accident. So my bet is that the working groups, and come on, remember that this is just a warm-up, right? Platform to drive change.
We're going to push for the top 10 every year. People that use the top 10, don't you think we should enforce it to use the current one? For instance, PCI.
Yeah.
1.1. They're using the old version of the top 10. Okay? SANS, FBI, all of that. A lot of people are still using the old version.
It's kind of tough because they're already 6 years behind. That's a realistic goal for them.
PCI 1.2 is the most current version of the Owasp. Okay.
So never
They
possible.
changed the version to the current.
Well, and I think that's what's interesting. What will be interesting, and in some ways, I think a lot of the success that OWASP has today has to do with the OWASP Top 10, because he gives us that credibility, he gave us that penetration on the market. And the reality is that we should look at it from a point of view of the assets. Who's using it? Who cares about the OWASP Top 10? Clearly the PCI cares about the OWASP Top 10. So the problem at the moment is that how do they talk to OWASP? Well, they can talk to Jeff, they can talk to other guys, but how do they officially talk to OWASP? And the summits can actually be those places. The summits are the places where people can talk officially to OWASP, and we should put them, our model goes around that. So what's interesting is the people who are running these groups or covering these projects, suddenly they're playing at a much higher stage. Great for them because they have more experience, visibility, they get better jobs, right? But also we get a lot more done. So, again, some of these things still need stronger leaders. We don't have enough strong chairs for a lot of these working sessions. We have, most have somebody assigned, but I would much prefer to have each one have somebody who really, really is driving it. I think Hashem is doing a great job with the browser security. That really drives it. That really, uses the opportunity to get his problem, done.
And I mentioned it at the leading meeting yesterday that I'm having troubles getting my members of the chapter to actually engage in projects. And I'm guessing that they don't really know how much work that's expected from them. So if I would suggest that a guy I know is really good at something should be the leader, I need to explain more or less how many hours or for how long will it go on. And I don't know those things.
Well,
I just say that's a cool project. You should be doing it, and he doesn't know. Will it be okay with my family? Do I need to go to several meetings, international meetings a year, or do I need to generate a mailing list, or?
That's a tough question because I think that it's almost like the unofficial correct answer is almost like, well, as long as you're doing more than the guy's doing it now, it's better, right? And one is that the standard keeps raising up and up and up. So the reality is that.
But Swedes are shy, so we would never say, I'm a good leader. I will take on this project.
Okay, then have them.
An American guy should take the leadership of this project. Yeah, I might contribute, but I'm a Swedish guy, so I won't be the leader.
So why don't we get like 3 Swedish guys?
Yeah, but if I could at least explain that this is what is expected from you, and everyone will be happy.
Yeah.
Even just having a headline like this, that doesn't say what the job is.
I see. you read this.
You could put in a lifetime achievement in the functionality.
So we actually, for each one, we actually have objectives and deliverables.
Okay.
So, but to be honest, like I'm going to be, you know, absolutely kind of brutal on that one, right? I think that we have to draw a line somewhere, and the line is contributions, right? I think that the current model, I think it's an amazing, you know, kind of organic model where if you put the time and talent and deliverables, you really become very quickly in a position of responsibility with a lot of respect from your peers, and you can get things done, and you can do it your own way, right? I would even say that, you know, there's almost a balance between, you know, you might have less experience, but you have more time, so that compensates. You might have a guy with a lot of skills, but if he doesn't have time, hey, you know, he doesn't. So, but I do find myself like ignoring anybody, right, that doesn't do anything. And it's almost like it's a defense mechanism, right? I cannot afford to engage on a conversation with a guy that has, you know, blah, 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 then doesn't deliver. I prefer to engage in a conversation with somebody who has delivered, right? Who has shown that they can, you know, it can be the proactivity or they can find a space. You know, and I view that what Owasp is to do is to have enough very nice, soft, and easy entry points. So you don't have a big barrier of entry. You know, it's a bit like, you know, like you could argue that we could take, you know, we could take the next 9 months to plan this summit, right? And then we can do it really well, and we can put the barrier really high. But actually, what you're doing is you're preventing a lot of people from participating. If you start to make something which is already that high, you know, and you don't have entry points, then all your culture that promotes those entry points, then it's even higher than that. So I think what we need to do is find projects, or maybe, you know, find ways that we can engage, you know, those guys. The main idea is to have a pool where people can say, I'm interested to work, and then, or to contribute, and then have another pool of people who allocate the resources. And maybe Kate can manage part of that, right?
The other thing, a lot of people in New York are mentioning, like Steve, Tom, myself, what they do is they explain the benefit to the that they work for. They turn their company into a Owasp sponsor, and then what happens from there is usually the company will allow you to like allocate 10 hours of your work time during the week towards, you know, building their branding in with Owasp. Right?
Yeah, that's what I do as a chapter leader.
Okay. No, the question is that how you scale it up, and I think that I always found this weird thing that I can't get people to abuse Owasp. We can't get them to use Owasp. And a lot of it is, I think it's a mixture of respect, shyness, you know, like a big suspicion that nothing is given for free and there's going to be a catch. Like if I, you know, if I don't have enough hands and feet, whatever, to count the people who ask me, like, bring me to the corner and go, all right, Dinis, what's the deal? Like, come on, just tell me, all right? I know you, you know me, we're friends. What's the catch? What's going on here? Like, there's no catch, right? It's like, you join, you contribute. If you contribute, you get a position of power. Position of power means you can do things. If you screw up, you're out of there, right? That's it. That's the model. So, you know, I think the summit is the place today. If they want, look, this is the answer. If they want to know how to contribute to Owasp, right? You come here and see the people. It's a bit like Paul Coimbra, right? Paul Coimbra went to the conferences in Belgium, and he was really afraid. Like he's, as you guys know, he writes, but he was really kind of not comfortable with speaking, right? And then he went there and he told me, says, man, half of these guys speak worse than me, right? And they're like presenting, and and I was like, yeah, man, because look, you know, they know what they're doing. They speak a bit slower and they struggle a bit. And then when people ask them questions, they can't answer. But hey, you know, they're presenting their stuff. They're having their opportunity, and everybody's sort of happy because they just saw a great presentation on great research. So, you know, it was almost like bringing them to Portugal, show them that that guy is actually Juan, right? Which is a great, easygoing guy that you can talk. So it's not like this big, pushy American, right? That is bullying everybody, right? Or, you know, whatever other, you know, person that is bullying the thing. It's just like a bunch of normal guys, right? Even the Americans, right? Yeah. That, you know, I would just it's actually, there's a great community. And that's what I really like about Owasp. I like about Owasp that there is, and it's very refreshing that to be in a place where there isn't really an agenda. And the only agenda is that if you deliver, that's the catch. If you don't deliver, you get ignored. If you deliver, you are in the middle of the action. So that's it. So basically, everybody gets to present. You got 15 minutes. It's going to be a great logistical nightmare, right? To get everybody to present in 15 minutes, right? The idea will be that we're going to have like a black hat, so a DEF CON, where there's going to be for the people for the question and answers. So if you want to ask a question, there's going to be hopefully a little army of contributors and helpers that grab the guy from stage and then drive him there. We have to be really like military with the way we do this. And it's also like, think about it, right? A project should be able to present itself, show what you do in 15 minutes. That's it. If they can't do that, I think there's something wrong. So because we need to reuse that across the board. So that's the sponsor that we need to get. So every single one of these guys get a VIP pass. So we're going to, and again, we want to bring our members down because I love the fact, right? And it's one of my favorite things is to say that there's nothing that a member gets as a member that he doesn't already get, which is a great sales pitch, isn't it? It's like you don't have to because you get everything. But I think what we can do is to give added kind of services or benefits that not like there's no we closing it. I think there's always this conversation. Oh, why don't we close a little bit of Owasp? It's just that bit there. It's a bit like the books. Why don't we have a special chapter that is only the book, that's on the printed thing? But that like a cancer. Once you've done that, like where do you stop? So you might get a couple of members in the short term, but then you basically destroy our culture. So what I like about this, is the fact that what we can do is start to go into our members and says, okay, so you pay $9,000 or $5,000, and what you do is you get 2 trips to summits with a training session, right? And you get 2 free entries to our top conferences, and you get 20 books, and you get to present your ideas on 3 topics, right? And I think that becomes a much more valuable and tangible asset, because it's not just, you're helping Owasp, which works clearly so far. I'll probably say that 40% of these stay there because their competitors are, right? So that's, I think we need to be pragmatic here, right? Because I will see that we cover a lot of sectors. There's a lot of sectors here that we actually like really grab every sector. Like all the big players in that sector, we have them, especially the vendors. But we already have, a lot of other companies. So, sorry? Yeah, so we already have like, Boeing, Nokia, eBay, which are users. I actually would like to split them in half. I actually think that Owasp should treat them differently, right? Because there are vendors who are selling tools, which actually our community buys, and then the other guys are users.
Just a comment here. I see lots of industry, but the banking sector is not there. Like you don't have any large bank in the list.
We got one, don't we? Isn't Boost? I don't know. That was okay.
So I know that they use Owasp. Like large bank in the US, they use all your material a lot, but it could be good to have them on the list as well. So maybe you should push for.
Yeah, I think so. I think that we the craziness of this is that if 10% of the global 1,000, right, that use, so if you got the top 1,000 companies that use Owasp around the world, that will cover, if 10% of those actually became our members, we would have a lot more. Because the number of companies that actually use our products is it's amazing, which is great. But that's part of our penetration. Part of the fact that why Owasp is so everywhere is the fact that there is no agenda. So from a membership point of view, I also like the summits, because the summits is suddenly it starts to make sense from a business point of view. Especially if we give them a stage, especially if we allow them to speak out, because because in some ways it's like we can't say there's something here that you're not going to have. We can be selective, for example, with our time. So there is no problem of saying, well, our members should help us to decide where we go next. So if you're not a member, if you have a great idea, we'll use it. But we can be rewarding our members also with the focus. So we could say, if you are a member and if you're in the banking industry, we really would like you to say, what are the things to do.
Well, Dennis, we're on that slide deck right there. I mean, we're a large transfer agent, right? Largest in the world.
Uh-huh.
What do you expect what should we expect from Owasp after we got on this list from one of our sites in Australia? But what do we, I mean, what do we get, or what should we be expecting from Owasp, or what should we be contributing? I know we're talking about, we should be telling you what we need, but.
Oh, well, okay, so we can say what Owasp said, right? So Owasp today gives you, even if you pay or you don't pay, right, gives you a bunch of conferences around the world, communities where you can go and meet locally around the world, which are our chapters. It gives you materials for you to use to improve your application security, which we invest in. So if you look at the testing guide, we already put probably $10,000 on it, direct investment money, right? And there's the book, so we invest on Kermit. So we're giving you all these materials. Sebastian a bunch of slide decks that you can use on your company. So we give you all these materials for you to use to make your company better. Now, what you should be doing to Owasp is saying, we would like you guys to solve me this problem. We would like you to focus on this. I have, I think that having, like the example of having web code in a way that can be deployed throughout an organization, in a way that's measured, in a way that can be used, in a way that scales up, it's a very interesting enterprise requirement. Where you go, I have developers, I'm going to send them 200 meg, right, of web code installation. Doesn't really work. So my view, of course, remember that, a lot of this, the board might, or the OWASP kind of community might think a little bit sometimes different than things I say, but I view that we should be getting our lead from users. When I mean users is a company like yours, who are basically have an agenda of protecting themselves. So you don't need to sell to OWASP community, right? Maybe transport services, but apart from that, right? So I would really listen with no kind of filters, what's your agenda filter, right? To any recommendation or any request that you would send our way, because that would be a real world request. And if you have 5 other companies from 5 other sectors, or even your sector, who says that's what we need, that gives us OWASP focus and direction. So please, so you don't have to be a member to participate. We should have, OWASP should have such a compelling deal and offering that participating should not be a big issue.
One of the banks though, they're more in, what do I get out of this? The whole marketing thing.
Yep.
The way we do the conferences. And then we're kind of missing out on certain. I mean, how many times have you been in front of the podium the past 2 days? 3, 4 times? Right there on the podium, they probably just want their name there. So that's sort of, you have to build out, we were talking about this before with the whole chapters, okay? And with the overall foundation, it also needs to do. They need to build certain committees, like a marketing committee.
I agree. Okay, there you go. There's the working session for you to run OWASP. In fact, one of the working sessions that I will run at OWASP, and I'll be in, which relates to what you're talking about, is I'm running a working session which is called Business Models Compatible to OWASP Values, right? And the example you're saying is I think it's a very clever thing that OWASP looks, hey, we got all these assets. There's all these companies who want visibility. Let's give them exposure as long as it fits within our values. So yeah, we have all these assets to sell as long as we don't become a freak show of ads, right? I view that as being clever. I think it's clever if we can use the assets that we create. This conference is a massive asset. This conference is a money generation machine. Not a huge one, but it is, because there is assets to be associated with it. And half of those vendors down there are here because they want to be associated, and we bring them potential. So, there's a working session for you to run in Portugal. Marketing opportunities across, worldwide market, or maximizing OWASP marketing opportunities. Go. There's a ticket.
First, we're running out of time, but I want to say this. I work for a bank right now, and that's not really the main problem that I have found the most over something in the office. And the main problem that I have, the more often I found, trying to get the bank or some sponsors, that they're not getting it, so they don't have the name associated with banks. So that would also be
We don't need to put their logo in. That's okay.
Yeah, what do they get?
Well, that's that's where I think that if we start adding trips to summits, trips to here, direct dialogues with Owasp, because that's something to actually that's something buys. If you have somebody, and let's say we have different categories of sponsorship.
That's a good incentive actually. Talk to the
Yeah.
members.
Yeah, so my view is as long as it's within the Owasp values, as long as we are, promoting our mission statement, which we don't know which one it is, and our values, which we don't really know which ones they are, but as long as it's almost like as long as it feels that it's, it values, and as long as Mark Scurfy Ghost doesn't really freak out, because I think we have a great analogy to vendors that was given to us by Mark Curfy, and I think was really healthy, which is the whole idea that you can't come to Owasp to promote your agenda. You can come to contribute, you can come to share, you can come to learn, but you can't come to sell your product, except if you are it's almost like as long as you're assigned on the assigned area where you're allowed to speak, vendor, right?
Sandbox.
Yeah, as long as it's sandbox, right, on that area. And but actually that's something that we could explore actually, and actually that could be tied to you. So how can we start giving our members? Here's a good idea, right? We could be it doesn't sounds worse if you just arrive at the conversation, but we could be selling Owasp focus. So when you go to a corporate member like a bank, we can say part of what you get as being it's almost like a non-vendor, non-vendor member. We could say that we give you direct access to the guys who do the work.
Okay. Is Chris Hang here yet?
Who?
Chris Hang?
Is
Is
it?
he here for this room that starts in 5 minutes?
All right, we have you guys any more questions, or can you wrap up? Cool. So I hope to see you guys at the summit. And I think the guys here who are more active in the summit is Dinis, Sebastian, Juan, and Leonardo, and now Tom, and him.
I just want to say something real quick. If you have people in your organization or company or whatever that want to make a name for themselves or just kind of extracurricular stuff, we could really use people on the work groups, not just for yourselves, but if you want to advertise it as a way to do self-promotion. Great on your resume. Do something I was, right? Alright. Weird.
Yeah.
If you want to be the next biggest Cruz, all the money you made for Owasp.
Look, but it's true. Like I can honestly say that 100%, okay, 95% of my contracts. I just had one recently. I give the percentage a little bit. Like 95% of my contracts over the last few years have been directly related to the people I met at Owasp. They don't hire me because they hire me because they see me, they see the stuff I do, and they at least give me a chance to to pitch and to present what I need to do. And it's a really nice position to be when you're being hired, when they also are convincing you to to work for them. So it's almost like a two-way convincing. So and exactly that.